let's talk about today's class, because I felt like today's class had some things that you wanted to incorporate specifically about the chaturangas, and I thought using the blocks the entire class was really neat too. So let's talk about what you were thinking about when you started putting this class together.
Well, I think I mentioned the last episode that Sunday classes are always for me a lot of fun creatively, thinking about what I want to do in a sequence and stuff like that. I think everyone's very willing and open to try whatever I put out there, which is really great. So I used a block to take with us through the entire class. And when I talked about squeezing that block between the hands for different things, where you're reaching the arms up and overhead, you're really thinking about engaging the entire shoulder, arm, everything, upper back, right? Because sometimes without the block, let's talk about that. Like you're lifting the arms up, let's say in a warrior one or whatever. And if you're not actively engaging the arms, they're kind of flopping around.
Yeah.
You're not doing much there, which is fine. But I was trying something different today and trying to get people to really activate. And I think people felt more mindful with the block today. We used it for every pose, pretty much. It was good for a lot of estimating shoulder width. Because sometimes, even with hips distance, shoulder width, and you ask people to separate their feet or their hands or whatever, that distance, a lot of people tend to overestimate the distance of how far and wide their hips are and their shoulders are. So this is kind of a neat guide, to get an approximation of where your shoulders might be in line with your hands and your wrists and stuff. So.
Yeah.
That was helpful, I think, too, for people in down dog when we started off there. So anyway, that was kind of where I was going with that. As far as, using the block for other things, we did some balancing poses and things, which I think sometimes people feel like using the block is a failure of some kind, that they can't do it right, they're not fully doing the pose with the block. And I just think sometimes making it normal to use a block is fine. It's acceptable. In fact, sometimes you should, because the block is what brings the ground closer to you. So you're not crunching in to try and reach the floor when that may not be good for what you're doing. So lifting up, really opening through the chest, that's what the block allowed them to do in standing postures like half moon or something like that. So
which is another very important piece that people should take advantage of to prevent injury, right? Well, during our practice.
Yeah. Grab a block. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, I use blocks. In my practice as well. Sometimes it really helps get you fully into a pose where you're really feeling like you're activating what needs to be.
Yeah, I think our members are really doing a good job of grabbing blocks. We have plenty, and I think people are feeling more comfortable just using it and understanding what we're trying to do, right? Especially when you're teaching class and you're wanting them to do certain things. They're starting to understand, like, hey, I shouldn't do this improperly. I'll just grab a block so that I can do what I can and do it properly. So yeah. I also really liked talking about chaturangas today, that you were using the blocks in the very beginning, so that we can use that to gauge how low we're going down, moving up, where we are, hand placements and things like that. So was that part of your goal in the very first flow?
Yes, I mean, we were thinking about chaturangas and injuries with that and stuff like that a lot the last several weeks. So I was trying to think of building a flow around that. Let's work up to it, figure out what needs to happen in order for you to do a full one. And then along the way, when we build it in steps like that, then people know where their modification is in that process. So if that's where they are today, then they keep that and use that the rest of the class, that version.
Yeah. The blocks was really neat because we were having to engage our muscles where we typically don't, and just thinking about transitioning from one to the other, it was one extra thing to think about and then control your body, right? Because sometimes we transition from one pose to another without doing much thought into it or being very mindful about it. But here, having to, especially in the beginning when you said, hey, we're going to be touching this block the whole class, like don't let go of the block, or don't release the touch from the block.
Yeah.
So everything that you're doing and you're moving, you're thinking, hey, one extra thing, I need to make sure that I have my hand on the block, my thumb on the block, I've got my toe on the block. So that was really neat. That's something very different from anything that we've done.
Well, I'm really glad that you picked up on that because, a lot of times when people get overwhelmed or something like that, one of the tricks that I learned, in my therapy days was to have something that people could concretely touch or smell or, use their senses in a way that kind of grounded them back. So that was the idea of making sure you're fully in contact with the block no matter what, because it can be a little overwhelming because nobody knew where I was going with this. It's brand new,
including me.
Yeah, I didn't say anything to you about it. It was a surprise.
I don't know if people know, but I don't know what you plan for Sunday classes either.
Yeah, I want you to be surprised too. I don't want to take that element away from you. I want you to be present in your practice, right? So, when I change it up like that, it's meant to make people feel like, oh, okay, I need to really listen. I need to focus on what's going on with my body and where I'm going next. Because you can get into this rhythm where you're just kind of on autopilot in life, in yoga, whatever, and you're not even thinking anymore about what's next. You think you already know, and you kind of fill in those gaps. So changing it up really helps that. So when you change it up, though, instantly when you say we're going to do something different, everyone grab a block, everyone's like, oh no, they're just unsure, which is fine. It's okay to be kind of cautious. That's natural. But this is the touchstone of their practice today. Even when we stepped forward, right, earlier in class, we were here, thumbs were touching the blocks in down dog, and then we're looking forward at the block, which is where the gaze should be before you decide to step your foot through, and then the right toes are touching the block, right? So always with some kind of engagement, touching the block.
I think the biggest engagement from today's class was with the mind, because you're constantly having to remember, hey, the block is there, we're touching the block, our hands touching the block, we're lifting the block.
Passing the block from one hand to another.
So I think that was a great exercise for the mind in class today. So let's tell them again, what's all your thoughts about today's class?
Well, so today's class, specifically used one block for the entire class. From the beginning all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that was that it was just, something different to really change it up in people's minds so that they could be more present in their practice. So it's not like, oh, I've done this a million times, I know where we're going. It's, I don't know where we're going next, but let me make sure that I'm always touching this block. And it's just kind of a way to have a feel for something as you're moving throughout different postures so that you can have something that's stable and constant.
Yeah. Great physical and great mental exercise today for class. So
I'm glad that you liked it, and I feel like other people thought it was interesting. I'm not sure that I'm their favorite right now, and I'm not sure if they liked it, but everyone did really well, making the adjustments and really kind of moving mindfully throughout the class today. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you moved a little bit slower today, but, and that was one of the comments from one of the students today, was that, class moved slower than what she expected and what she normally gets coming to Sunday, but it was very different. So it was still such a great workout, And we got other people that made some comments about thinking that it was very interesting. It was just different, and it was good. So, good job today.
Thank you.
That Sunday class.
Yep. Hope to see y'all.